All Hit Radio.
Welcome to the X Zone, a place where fact is fiction and fiction is reality. Now, here's your host, Rob McConnell.
Welcome back to the X Zone, everyone. My name is Rob McConnell. We're coming to you from our studios in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada, on the X Zone Broadcast Network and the Talkstar Radio Network, and our growing family of broadcast affiliates across Canada, the United States, Central America, the Caribbean, South America, the Pacific Rim, Asia, Africa, and Europe. My email address is xzone@xzoneradiotv.com. Our toll-free number is 1-800-610-7035. And you can always chat with us here in our studios 24 hours a day by typing in our MSN address to MSN Messenger. That is xzoneradiotv@hotmail.com. And our website, www.xzoneradiotv.com. My guest this hour is Dr. Antonia Martinez, and we're going to be talking about the inner power doctor. Now, Dr. Martinez is a metaphysician as well as a holistic personal growth and goal achievement expert. Her work combines a unique blend of Eastern, Western, and indigenous techniques, including energy medicine, martial arts, and meditation. Dr. M holds a doctorate in metaphysics and is pursuing a second doctorate in metaphysical psychology. She is the author of the Inner Power Workbook, the Outrageous Growth and Success Video, and the free inspirational ebook Stacy Story. She is also the spiritual director of the Inner Life Society, a nonprofit spiritual development organization headquartered in New York City that provides online training. Dr. M began having psychic and paranormal experiences in childhood, which eventually led her to a professional psychic in the late 80s. A strange experience led her to her first spiritual teacher, who trained her in the deeper techniques of healing, meditation, and working with energy. Those experiences also exposed Dr. M to other cosmic and mystical phenomena, including encounters with UFOs. Dr. M's current training includes studying in a mystery school and working with indigenous master shamans in Peru. Dr. M trains facilitators, entrepreneurs, and other leaders to use holistic and metaphysical principles to create balance, successful, and growth in their lives and in the lives of others. She also develops and facilitates innovative adult, corporate, and youth programs, and she is the creator of the Inner Power Mapping Technique and the Inner Empowerment Process, a unique and alchemical process for the growth and transformation. Joining me now is Dr. M. Dr. M, welcome to the X Zone.
Thank you very much. I'm glad to be here.
Dr. M, can you tell us about your first psychic or paranormal experience?
Sure. Actually, my earliest one, I was maybe about 3 or so, and my grandmother told me that I had come up to her and my grandfather, and I started telling them things about themselves, and I told them which one of them was going to die first. And I don't remember that one, but they told me about that one. The first one I actually remember, I was maybe about seven or 8, and it was a paranormal experience. My parents went out to pick up some pizza, and I didn't want to go with them to pick up the pizza, so I stayed at home. And while I was waiting for them to come back, I was sitting in my little, I had a little toy chair, and as I'm sitting in the chair, these beings just materialized in front of me. There were like 5 of them. I called them mud people because that's what they kind of looked like to me, and they were kind of dancing around me like people would dance around the fires somewhat. And this lasted for a couple of minutes, and then they just disappeared. And so that's the first one that I actually remember.
Now, did these mud people ever come back to you in your later years?
No, I never saw the mud people again, and for some odd reason, I don't know why I wasn't afraid. You know, you sit there, you see mud people,
Yeah.
you would think that would be frightening, but for some reason, I just wasn't. But at the same time, it kind of reminds me of, stories I hear about other children. They see things, but they don't always seem to be afraid of them. They kind of, I don't know, have some type of connection with it. And as I was looking at them, even though at that age I didn't know what I was looking at per se, I kind of felt like as they danced around me, I had this feeling that what they were dancing around wasn't me, meaning that they didn't see me like a human being sitting in a chair. I had this distinct feeling that I looked like something else to them.
All right, Doctor, please stand by. You and I have to take a commercial break. Dr. Martinez is our special guest, Dr. Antonia Martinez. Her website is www.innerpowerdoctor.com, and doctor is spelled out INNERPOWERDOCTOR.com. We'll be back in 2 minutes. Don't go away. Dr. M is our special guest, Exo Nation. Once again, her website is www.innerpowerdoctor.com. That's INNERPOWERDOCTOR.com. And Dr. M, before we went to the break, you were talking about the muddy people, or the people that reminded you of mud figures. And as you and I were talking off-air, like the mud people in Scooby-Doo and other cartoons, and yet I have heard them referred to, or the entities that have visited children before, referred by different children over the years as mud people.
Wow, I'm really fascinated by that. I really am.
I'll try and get more information about these children to you, and maybe there's a correlation that we can talk about at a later date.
Yeah, I would be very interested in that, because I mean, I've always been curious. Well, who were those people? You know, I mean, looking back at it as an adult, I get the impression that those people that I saw are people who exist in a dimension that's kind of superimposed on this one. And I say that because when they materialized, you know, it wasn't like, you know, a Star Trek type thing where, you know, somebody beamed them in. It was, they were already in the middle of doing something, and then all of a sudden I became aware, you know, I was able to perceive what was happening in that space. And I've wondered as an adult also, did they just look like mud people because of, you know, my perspective at that age, or my perspective from, you know, coming from third dimension? I've always just been very curious about it.
Well, you know, my producer just sent me an IM saying that the indigenous people of Australia, in one of their rituals, cover their bodies with mud, river mud. So I'm just wondering if what you actually experienced was a crossover in the time-space continuum.
Oh, that would be really fascinating.
Interesting.
Yeah, that's very interesting. And I said before that I seemed not to be afraid of them, but I was worried I was going to get in trouble if they got mud on the carpet when my parents got back.
Yeah, well, I still worry about that when people come to the house that I'm going to get hit because they get mud on the floor from my wife. What do you think is your special power or your spiritual gift, Doctor?
Well, actually, I've come to realize that my ability is being able to access these other dimensions. So, I mean, at that age, I didn't know that's what I was doing. But as I've done more psychic work, I have definitely seen for myself that I do have a gift for being able to see into other dimensions, to access information from other dimensions, and that also includes the dream world. So when I eventually discovered shamanism, I really took to it because I could do a lot of those techniques easily, journeying, that kind of thing. It came very natural to me. And so that I feel that I was doing that in another life. And for whatever reason, the work that I'm doing this life,
Mm-hmm.
it's necessary to use it.
Tell me, what do the other dimensions look like to you?
Well, it depends on the dimension. There are some that they look like, I guess the best way I could describe it would be sparkles, sparkles and patterns. So not like anything that I could describe other than that. Then there are some dimensions where they somewhat look similar to this,
Mm-hmm.
only they feel different in terms of the other senses. Some dimensions are more kind of like light versions of the same thing, maybe more like something you'd imagine on the astral plane. And then some other ones that I've accessed, it's hard to describe because you don't have any sensory experience of what you're doing or where you are, but you have some kind of knowledge of it. And then some things are just weird that I really couldn't describe anything about them. And I always find that fascinating, that while you're in the experience, you kind of seem to understand it. It makes sense. But when you try to relay that to someone once you're back in third dimension, there's nothing that you can compare the experience to that you would be able to describe it. There's no feeling like what you felt. There are no colors, no textures, no emotion that relates to what you experienced in that other place. So they're very different.
So tell me, what kind of people do you help with your various gifts?
I mean, the kind of people, they range. When people come to me, most often people are coming either for me to do healing work,
Mm-hmm.
and so the ability to see into other dimensions is very helpful there, because not only can I see what's happening energetically behind whatever the physical ailment is, but I'm also able to see if it's connected, let's say, to a memory or something like that. I can actually see the memory. It exists somewhere energetically in another dimension. Then the other type of people who come, it's more of working with someone to shift their energy internally. They're looking maybe to resolve a particular problem, and this could be just an everyday problem,
Mm-hmm.
but for whatever reason, it's challenging for them. So then the work more is on the intuitive of detecting, well, what's actually happening internally that's creating the block for this person. And then the third group of people that I work with are people who want to learn how to develop these abilities within themselves. So I'll do workshops, retreats. I also do like one-on-one type stuff. So I really like teaching people how to develop their abilities, because they tend to be very amazed at how easily they can develop certain things. You just kind of have to detect what's easier for you.
What are some of the techniques you've used to access altered states of consciousness or other dimensions, Doctor?
Well, in that first experience when I was a kid, I realized that what I had done was I put myself in a trance because
Mm-hmm.
I was staring at something. So that's one technique, using any type of meditation technique to shift your consciousness is one technique. Another technique that I use this when I'm working with the shamans when I go to Peru, is using plant medicine. And that really has a very profound experience on your impact on your energy field. It really opens up things. It removes a lot of the blockages that we typically have that keep us disconnected from that internal ability, those other senses. They sometimes call it seeing, that ability to really perceive it directly. So those are two. And then a third one that I use most frequently is journeying, and that's also a shamanic technique. And I guess you could best describe it as a sort of a combination of meditation and daydreaming, in terms of trying to describe it. I mean, that's not exactly what you're doing. You really are shifting your brainwave patterns to go into a different state so that you can access those other dimensions. So those are the three I use most commonly.
Dr. Antonia Martinez is our guest. Her website is www.innerpowerdoctor.com. And how can others develop psychic abilities or other spiritual gifts, Doctor? Is it hard?
No, not at all. I think that everybody has some kind of gift. So maybe the hard part may be figuring out what your gift is, what you seem to naturally tune into. But I use a technique to get people a little more sensitive, because you have your five senses, but there are extensions of those five senses that we're always kind of experiencing, but maybe not consciously. So a lot of times what I'll do when I'm starting a training program with someone like that to help them become more sensitive or more psychic is that I begin working with them on learning how to feel the other dimensions of the five senses they actually have already. So, for example, let's say we're in a room, and I may have someone go around the room and, let's say, touch everything in the room, smell everything in the room, really look very closely at everything in the room, that kind of thing. And then I would have them sit and imagine going through that experience again, reproducing that experience in their mind of their senses. And the purpose of that is to awaken the inner senses. Dreaming is one of your inner senses as well. So learning just how to get more information, be more aware of the information that's already coming in through your five senses is a great place to start, because then you have a launch pad to do more psychic things. It becomes a little easier for you. Maybe there are some people who they're more sensitive to the extra information they're getting through the sense of touch. So that would be like psychometry.
Right. Psychometry.
Yeah. You can touch something, right. You can touch it and then start to pick up the energy imprint that's left behind. Who touched it last, or what's the emotion that's connected to it. Or you may be a person who you're very good with the inner sense of your vision. So you can see things in your mind very clearly, and it's only a hop, skip, and a jump to see something coming, let's say, in the future. So one of the techniques I give for that, for example, is like a simple game of seeing in your mind what's the next car that's going to drive by the window or by the corner that you're standing on.
Dr. M, please stand by. You and I have to take our news break at the bottom of the hour. Exonation, Dr. Antonia Martinez is our special guest. Her website is www.innerpowerdoctor.com. That's www.innerpowerdoctor.com. And Dr. Martinez and I will be back on the other side of this commercial break with the news as the X Zone continues from our studios in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada, on the X Zone Broadcast Network and Talkstar Radio.
Hi, this is Eric Rawls of Cosmoverse.com, and you're listening to Rob McConnell in the X Zone.
Hi, this is Blade Runner, and you are listening to Canada's #1 paranormal radio show, The X Zone, with Rob McConnell.
Hi, I'm Laura Fabrin of Feast to Fields Organic Vineyard in Jordan, and you're listening to Canada's #1 paranormal radio show, The X Zone, with Rob McConnell.
Hi, my name is Lady Ashley, the White Witch of Niagara-on-the-Lake, and you're listening to Canada's #1 paranormal talk radio show, The X Zone, with Rob McConnell.
Welcome to The X Zone, a place where fact is fiction and fiction is reality. Now, here's your host, Rob McConnell.
I love the colorful clothes you wear and the way the sunlight plays upon her hair. I hear the sound of a gentle wind on the wind that lifts her perfume through the air. I'm picking up good vibrations. She's giving me the excitations. I'm picking up good vibrations. She's giving me the excitations. Good vibrations. She's giving me the excitations.
Dr. M, or Dr. Antonia Martinez, PhD, is our special guest. Her website is www.innerpowerdoctor.com. That's www.innerpowerdoctor.com. Doctor, share with us, if you can, some of the spiritual training that you've had.
It's been a mix of different things. In the beginning, I had a spiritual teacher. Her name was Celeste Harper, and I actually met her, I think I was still a teenager back then. I really got a really good education with her in terms of how to refine my ability and make it more purposeful. But before that, I was naturally psychic, and there were certain things that I did myself, and I, tried to use books. But having the teacher, that's where I really learned how to deepen my meditation.
Mm-hmm.
That's where I learned how to do the healing work. And that's actually when I really discovered how useful this ability to see into other dimensions was for me. She gave us an exercise, and I think this was probably one of the first days I was in class. And the idea was we would touch one of our other classmates and just see what we could get. But when I touched him, I could actually see something in his arm. And I told him what I saw, and that was a condition he had with his arm. I don't remember what it was. It might have been, maybe he had a fracture or he sprained something or something like that. So going to that class, and we went every week for years. And it wasn't just about the ability. It wasn't just about being a better psychic or healing. What was most profound and most helpful out of that training was really about learning how to connect with your inner self, with that divine power, and really working towards your enlightenment. So that was very powerful. Following that, I next went into a mystery school, which I still study in. And a mystery school is it's a spiritual school, or you could call it a wisdom school. There are many, and they're all different depending on who your teacher is in the school. But whatever mystery school you are in, there's typically some type of philosophy or practice or focus of how you're doing your spiritual work. And the work really is about becoming more enlightened, being more spiritual, being more loving, and allowing everything else that you're doing, whether it's psychic work, healing work, or whatever, to really be in alignment with expressing that divinity through your everyday life. Then during that same time, I also started to train with the shaman, and I still work with the same shaman. His name is Don Victor. He lives in Peru. And that, I feel that I have a natural propensity towards shamanic practices, and I think that's why I gravitate toward that and drew those teachers to me that I had. working with the shaman is really just a very profound experience, because you just, not only because of the spiritual things that you learn, but of course, when you're working with a shaman, for most people, unless you're indigenous yourself, you're working with a completely different culture. You get to see things from a totally different perspective. And for me, working with the shaman was it was really essential to helping me forge a new understanding and bond with the planet. You hear a lot of people talking about, love planet Earth, connect to the Earth.
Yeah.
And unless you really have certain kinds of experiences, that's just a theory. It's a nice thing to say. But if I may tell you about one of these experiences, the last time that I went, it was towards the end of the work we were doing. We were there for maybe 2 weeks or 18 days, something like that. And towards the end, we were in the hot springs, and we're in the middle of this mountain range. And we had been working with the plant medicine, and the whole purpose was about that particular journey was about opening up that third eye more. And one of the things that I saw while we were out there, and I wasn't the only one, because there were several people who were on the trip, I could actually look at that mountain that was across from us, and I could see different beings, different people, different animals, different plants. You could actually see the history of the earth right there, like it was a book. And the mountain itself looked like it had hands, not anything that was carved, but you could really see that consciousness there. And I realized that day, I'm like, wow, when we're here, we have such a profound effect on how the planet is shaped physically, just because we were here. And then I realized that if those people who came before had such an impact as to shape this mountain, we're made of the dust of the earth. So the energy that you leave behind can impact someone to the extent that their bodies are made out of the dust you leave behind. And that had such an impact on me. So that kind of training, it's invaluable.
Tell me, is there a difference between the shaman in Peru and a shaman in, let's say, Arizona?
Well, I would imagine, I haven't worked with a shaman in Arizona, but I think that their techniques might be a little different, because shamanism tends to be very organic. I would imagine they have very different training. I think the core of it would probably be the same. You might learn some of the same lessons or the same skills. You may have some of the same abilities, but perhaps the way the shaman goes about it may be different. Of course, if you're in Arizona, you're not going to get a chance to go to the jungle like we did and work with jungle medicine, but you'd work with whatever happens to be in that place. So I think they probably are different, but not, let's say, better or worse, or one's more or less effective.
Tell me, have you ever had any past life experiences that have significantly impacted your present life?
Yeah, actually, I've had a number of past life experiences, but there were two in particular that really influenced things, and one of them actually is how I got to Peru in the first place. I was doing a past life regression on myself. I used to do that for a living also. I used to do past life regression therapy. And I was working on myself, and I had a couple of flashes of different lifetimes. And so I drew them down, and I didn't actually know too much about them, but one of them was it was an image of me, and I was in the middle of this large drawing on the ground. And I didn't know what it was. A couple of months later, I'm cleaning my apartment, and there's a documentary on TV. I think it was Chariots of the Gods that came on, maybe. And in the documentary, they showed a picture, and it was the same figure that I saw in my vision. And what that was one of the figures from the Nazca lines in Peru. And the Nazca lines, they're these giant petroglyphs in the dirt. And the one that I saw was the hummingbird. And once I saw that, I was like, wow, that's a real place. I have to go there. And me wanting to connect with that got me started with this whole going to Peru and working with the shaman. That's how I found the shaman. So that was very significant. The other one was really, I was doing a meditation. That's how it started. And I wanted to know about my first life on Earth.
Mm-hmm.
And I got this vision, and I got some dates, and it was kind of far-fetched. And I'm like, maybe I just made that up. I saw, people from other planets. It was about 450,000 years ago. And I'm thinking, I'm imagining things. But once I had that meditation, then I started having all of these dreams. I had dreams of being on another planet, and there was a crew of us, and we had a task, and we had to go to the blue planet. I had dreams about being here, and it was me and a group of other people, and we were in this control room, and we were doing genetic experiments. But again, at the time, I'm thinking, maybe it's just a dream. But one day I was telling someone about all of the dreams. And when I told him everything, he said, have you ever read a book called The 12th Planet? And I said, no, I haven't. So he said, read it. I was like, oh, well, what is it about? He didn't want to tell me. Anyway, The 12th Planet is a book by Zecharia Sitchin,
Mm-hmm.
in which he talks about these people, the Anunnaki, who come from this planet called Nibiru. And a lot of the details that I told my friend that were in my dream were in this book. Even the number of 450,000 years ago was in there. So that really, it was just so profound. I mean, that's just the kind of thing you're like, wow, what do you say to something like that? And that book, and I read some of the other ones, I mean, I think I already kind of believed in aliens, but that was new to me. This idea that someone came here and that there was genetic experimentation, and that was brand new. So to kind of read about what I saw in a dream in someone else's scholarly work, that really had a very profound impact on me.
Tell me, how do you prevent all this psychic and paranormal stuff that's going on in your life from interfering with your every day-to-day life, or even your very own relationships? How do you do it?
Well, I think it actually comes from the training of having everything tie into being more aware. So, because I know, like, some people, when they have psychic experiences, sometimes they can't control it, or they may feel inundated because they're very sensitive to what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
But I've been fortunate in that I had training earlier, so that when I do pick up these impressions, I don't feel like I have to react to them or speak on them. It's like, oh, okay, I'm aware of X, Y, Z, and then I kind of use that to inform me about certain things. So I may deal with someone and get a psychic impression of them right away and say, all right, well, this person may be like this, and that.
Mm-hmm.
So I just need to be aware of that when I'm dealing with this person. So it actually helps me to deal with my everyday and to deal with my relationships with other people. It's been definitely a blessing on that level.
Why are there more and more TV shows and movies about ghosts, psychic kids, and all the paranormal now? Is it just a phase? Is it just a fad? Or is the activity actually that much more increased?
Oh, yeah. I really feel that this time that we're in,
Mm-hmm.
there really is I think the veil is lifting, and the shows that are coming out, maybe from the point of view of Hollywood, they probably think it's a trend, but I really think it's a manifestation of the fact that the veil between the worlds is much thinner than it used to be. People are much more receptive to it, and I also think that because we're a society, at least I'm in the U.S., and I would have to say that television is probably our biggest addiction. So many people are tuned to television and movies. I think that's one of the best ways to send a message to this side if you want to talk to us, So no, I don't think it's a fad at all. I really think it like I said, it's a manifestation of what's available. People are waking up. People are really more interested in it. In a certain way of looking at it, it's almost like we're getting a crash course in spirituality and all things paranormal. And I also think maybe I should say, instead of a teaching, it's more of a preparation.
Dr. M, please stand by. You and I have to take our final break. Dr. Antonia Martinez is our special guest. www.innerpowerdoctor.com. That's www.innerpowerdoctor.com, and doctor is spelled out completely, so it's INNERPOWERDOCTOR.com. We'll be back after this break. Don't go away.
She's somehow closer now. Sounds funny, but I just can't stand the pain. Girl, I'm leaving you tomorrow. Seems to me, girl, you know I've done all I can. You see a big store that I bought. Yeah.
Dr. Antonia Martinez is our guest this hour. Her website is www.innerpowerdoctor.com. And before we say so long for tonight, Doctor, can you tell me what changes you think 2012 will bring?
Well, I think that 2012 is going to bring two main changes. One, I think we're going to have some kind of discovery where it's no longer going to be speculation about other worlds or other dimensions, other beings. I really think something's going to happen to really open us up. And I think a lot of these shows we've been seeing, paranormal activity, is preparation for something much larger that's going to come. And I think there's also going to be a major shift in just how we govern ourselves, the whole structure, our economic, political, educational structure. I think there's going to be a big shift because there's going to be a big shift in values. And, it won't happen just on, that one day in 2012, but going forward, there's going to be something, just a new perspective.
Tell me, we've just got a couple of minutes left, Doctor. Do you have any upcoming training programs that our listeners might be able to participate in?
Oh, yeah, actually, I'm doing another trip to Peru with our shaman, Don Victor. There are two. One is August 17th through the 27th, and then the second one is August 25th through September the 1st. Our shaman works with us every single day. We're doing healing work, spiritual work, plant medicine. But on that second trip, we're also going to a place called Tiwanaku, and I would imagine some of your listeners may be familiar with that because there's a connection there between Lemuria and Atlantis and some other mystical places like that. And I also have an online course, Developing the Inner Senses for 2012, and that's sponsored by the Inner Life Society. That's an online program, and they can find out about that on my website as well. It trains you on how to develop your spiritual gifts and your psychic abilities.
And that's at www.innerpowerdoctor.com. Right?
Yes.
Dr.
Yes,
Martinez, I want to thank you so much for joining us. It's been a great pleasure talking to you. So, quickly, we've got about 30 seconds. Do you see 2012 as the end of the world, as so many negative people out there are predicting?
No, as a physical death, no, I definitely don't see that. We're not going to get off that easy.
That's one way of putting it.
Here.
That's one way of putting it. Dr. Martinez, thank you very much for joining us. Look forward to the next time you meet us here in the X Zone.
Thank you so much.
Good night, ma'am. Dr. Antonia Martinez has been my guest this hour, X Zone Nation. Her website is www.innerpowerdoctor.com. That's www.innerpowerdoctor.com. When I come back from the news at the top of the hour at 6.5 minutes past, I'll be joined by Mark Anthony. You ready for this? He's known as the psychic lawyer. That's right, he is a practicing attorney. And we're going to be talking to Mark Anthony about healing grief with belief. All this and more as the X Zone continues from our studios in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada, on the all-new X Zone Broadcast Network and the Talkstar Radio Network. Don't go away. We'll be back.